Many apartment complexes, in fact, I would say the majority of apartment complexes in Austin, Texas, and other major cities require tenants to have renter's insurance. Now, there are two parts to renter's insurance. The first part is liability coverage. Usually, apartments require at least $100,000 of liability coverage. The second part of a renter's policy is your personal property, okay? Now, for liability coverage, apartment complexes want to protect their own liability. Like, they don't want to be sued for something that one of their tenants might do. Now, an example of when, say, an apartment complex might be held responsible or held liable for something is, say there's a party and everybody's congregating on the patio, it's the second floor, and it collapses and a bunch of people are injured. Well, that's not really the tenant's fault that happened. That's probably the apartment complex's fault. Of course, the tenant could be held liable if, say, somebody gets really drunk and falls off the balcony and hurts themselves, okay? So that's when their liability coverage on the renter's policy would kick in. Personal property coverage is on everybody's renter's policy, and you choose how much personal property you want to insure. If you have renter's insurance and somebody comes in and steals your computer, it's going to be covered after you pay your deductible. And when I say it's going to be covered, your insurance company is going to give you the replacement cost of whatever it was that was stolen, okay? If, say, there is a fire and you lose all your personal property, then it would be covered by your renter's policy. You also have with that 10% off-premises coverage. And that means that if you're away from your apartment or your house and something gets stolen, and say you have $20,000 in personal property coverage, you would have $2,000 to cover your property off-premises. Say if it's stolen from your car, or if it's stolen at school, or any other reason, or if there's a fire too. You would have, coverage to replace your personal property. Another thing that a lot of people don't think about, especially young students, if you have multiple roommates, really each roommate should have their own renter's insurance. Now, the apartment complex is probably not going to require that. They only are going to require you to have a policy that has $100,000 in liability coverage. But if you're the roommate who is getting the insurance, guess what? If one of your roommates does something dumb, somebody's going to try to collect that on your insurance policy, and it may not even be your fault. You see what I mean? And plus, the personal property coverage is, you don't want your insurance to cover your roommate's personal property. Like if they get something stolen out of their car, you don't want your policy to cover their personal property. And it could be that it wouldn't even be covered anyway, because you're the one, if it's in your name, the insurance company assumes that it's your personal property, So really, to protect yourself, each roommate should have his or her own insurance policy to protect their personal property and to protect their liability. Renter's insurance is just a good idea for anyone who rents, whether your landlord or your apartment complex requires it or not. It's inexpensive. It protects you. It protects your property on premises and off premises. It protects your liability if somebody tries to sue you for something. It's just a good idea, and it's really inexpensive. So if you have any questions about renter's insurance or any of your other insurance, go to my YouTube channel, subscribe, send me an email, and I'll be happy to answer your questions in a future video. Thanks.